Welcome to another episode of the Dentology podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Oliver Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Evans. Let's jump straight into it. So welcome to our latest episode of Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. And today our guest is Oliver Acton. And Oliver is the founder of FTA Media. He's also a mechanical engineer and family man. Welcome, Oliver.
Hi, great to be on after editing so many of these.
And also,
really good.
And his son.
He is.
Just in case you might have missed that one, but the similarity in the surname gives the clue away.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Oliver's my eldest son, and he got dragged into the business a few years ago now just to help out. And as a group, we needed to represent ourselves in the world of video marketing. So Oliver came in to help us out. But just talk us through, because you're obviously qualified as a mechanical engineer. So what was that kind of segue shift from doing engineering to now being a videographer? How did that come about?
I'll say it's a bit of a left turn. When I was at uni, got really into motorsport, and I went to do engineering to get into cars and that stuff, and started doing a lot of video and social media marketing for the Motorsports Society. So I was recording our go-karting races and that kind of thing. And then slightly fell out of love with my degree as I got towards the end of it. Still finished it, still got it and everything, but it was a lot more maths and physics. And it's like, okay, whether I want to see myself doing this as a long-term career. Right. And then decided that if I could do videos and carry that on and get somewhere near cars and that kind of thing. And just fell into the love of videography and watched countless hours and the stuff on YouTube, and lots of self-learning and self-teaching.
I think the other thing,
here we are today, 3 years later.
For me, Oliver, is I've known you obviously quite a while, but you've got this, you've got an amazing creativity. But but you've always been creative, with the band and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I played. Was it when I started learning piano? That was year 2, year 3. Right. So I was about 8 or 9 when I started that. And then, I've been in various bands throughout secondary school and performed. I played once with the Junior London Symphony Orchestra with trumpet. And performed to what's the Chingford Festival? It's probably 1,500 people.
Yeah.
In the festival. And played up London and stuff. So no, there's always been a creative side, even though I ended up going and doing engineering at uni.
Because it must be, I always think to myself, I know I've spoken to you a number of times about it, engineering is like engineering, isn't it?
It's quite physics and maths.
Then we've gone from engineering to being a brilliant creative director of what you do. And you can't sort of imagine many engineering grads going, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go and do a bit of media. They just don't sit almost as bedfellows.
I was going to say, you imagine that they're very different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
You've got the creative part that's whirring away, but then you've also got that logic and principle based stuff.
The thing is, I think that's where it does help. So obviously you've got the creative part and making nice videos and all of that stuff, but then it's linking it to how does this actually help the client and turning that into a business and actually analysing the numbers side of it as well.
And you're quite right about that.
Marry those two together.
Because you're right, it's not just creating beautiful videos for us and for you. It's creating beautiful videos, but what's the end game business objective of that video, and where does it add value, and how do you get an ROI on that?
Because that's the thing, they're not inherent. Obviously, you can do it cheap, but if you want something high quality and it's going to actually get an ROI for you in your business, they suddenly become not super cheap things. You want to make sure that you're going to get that return.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Having that idea at the forefront before you even start is a good idea.
Yeah. And I mean, for us, we got into video, I think we got started about 7 years ago, but to be honest, we were playing at it. It wasn't anything big.
Yeah.
And I think we took it seriously about 3 years ago, which would have been when you joined us to help. Is that quite typical? Because I feel now we've hit a tipping point where video is core to how you present yourself on social media.
Yeah.
Lots of the smart websites now have a headline video, and people want to see and hear the people behind the business. And for me, one of the best ways to do that is video. And is our experience quite typical of what's happened across the different industries you work in, but particularly dentistry?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the time it starts off with a slight. There's two ways people usually go about it. One's the free Instagram version. You see them posting a lot of stories, and that starts to work, and that starts to get a bit of traction. And like, okay, should we get something a bit more on brand and professional done? Which is then we step in and start to build their video portfolio and their content marketing. And then you get the other side of people that haven't done that and just not decide one day that they want video, but understand the value of it, but understand that it's not something they could do themselves or don't have the time to do themselves. And that's where, again, we can step in and help out.
It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think your guys' experience and our experience, we started on the Instagram just posting side. Well, we started with just a mobile phone and a gimbal.
Yeah.
So we started on that almost virtually free side, and then have progressed that into what we're doing now.
It seems to have become, I don't quite know if relaxed is the right word or it's because we've all become, but I can remember when we did the first videos, it always looked a little bit stuffy and felt a little bit stuffy. Don't you think so? Do you know what I mean? When you look back now, and is it because we've all become more comfortable with it, or is it because the style of shooting that I've seen the stuff you do, that the stuff you produce looks more relaxed? Because I in my head, I was suddenly thinking, we videoed that. Do you remember that seminar we videoed, which was completely had no personality whatsoever within it. It was just like...
I mean, before Oliver answers, I'll give my... I think it's a combination. I think we're more relaxed. I think we also see a lot more video, and that makes you more relaxed that we're doing video because you're not alone, and we were quite early on in that. But also, I got to go on a shoot with Oliver a few weeks ago. And so I sort of stood behind the camera. I was watching Oliver working with... We had a guy that was basically being interviewed and creating some content. But standing watching Oliver and watching the person who was being interviewed, the relaxed style from Oliver and the feedback to the person that was being filmed put them at ease.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of us being more relaxed, but also creating an environment which makes it easy for people to relax.
Being more relaxed, because I just remember, I'd forgotten that we even dabbled in it, but I just remember, I don't think we ever used it because we just felt it was a bit stuffy and not represent. I mean, that's the interesting, not representative of us.
I mean, that's kind of almost like the client side. How do you see it?
Well, I think it's an interesting thing for us three because we've grown together as presenters and creative. So in the past 3 years that we've been doing all of this, obviously our techniques have improved and the way that we make the videos improved, but also obviously you guys presenting the ideas that we've come up with. So as a full entity, everything has grown up together. Whereas now when we step into a business, we have the ideas, we have the creative to bring that from day one rather than having this kind of 3-year run up to be where we are now.
Yeah. And I think for some clients, from talking to people generally about how they use video and whether they're looking to integrate it into their marketing plan, I think sometimes people feel that it's going to become this massive Hollywood production and it's going to be a bigger thing than it actually needs to be. Is that the case? Do people sometimes talk themselves out of doing video because they think it's going to be this huge thing, but actually it can be quite simple, it can be quite cost effective, and it can be something that's quick to deliver?
Yes, I think it's essentially you get out of it what you want and what you put into it. So we've had clients where we've done a single day, we've had 4 or 5 different locations, the lights, bells, whistles, everything. And it has turned out a very Hollywood-esque kind of experience for them. Whereas other people are just much more simple, be like, look, this is all we want. We want a much more kind of pared back approach. And obviously that does factor in the budget and things, which is quite nice for them. But so obviously it doesn't have to be this full-on experience.
Yeah,
we can tailor it for exactly what you need, and it's to the personality of the client.
Yeah.
So some people don't want to be running around in flash cars and jumping out of airplanes and that kind of thing. Whereas, they might just want a simple, neat, aesthetically
I think that
video
personality of the account, that personality of the person is really important, because you're right, it has to have congruence. Because if you have presented yourself in a particular way over what could be decades to patients and your team and everything else, and you suddenly produce a piece of video content where you're looking a bit like a maniac, that doesn't sit well. But equally, if you are a very animated person, that should come through on the video as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's no point. Sorry.
So I was going to say, Oliver, I presume you've got to sort of be not just the videographer, but you've all, and the set dresser, but you're probably directing people, are you, as well, and saying, just chill out a bit. No, don't do that. Don't wave your hands around too much. It's a very engaging process.
The amount of times we've done. So say we've got 8 videos to do, talking to camera. The amount of times we've gone through all 8 and then redone the first 1 or 2, because people do relax, people chill out. Like the first one, everyone's a bit stuffy and a bit clammy. And the thing is, 99% of the population don't get in front of a camera every day, especially dentists or business people. It's not a natural thing for people to do. So people do relax, and everyone comes out of it saying, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Is there a standard approach that you take to the creative process? Are there certain things that you do that makes sure that, one, you end up with a good result, but from the people who are involved in the process, it works for them as well? Because like you say, most people don't sit in front of a camera and have to present or perform or whatever it might be. So is there a kind of without it being kind of formulaic, is there a standard process that you go through to make sure that the results are as good as possible?
So I think we always start from, what's the video going to be used for? So that changes the entire thinking and process. So say if it's a website headline video, you won't have that much speaking on it. It'll just be like nice shots of the surrounding area of the practice or the business. Whereas if it's something for, say, education or informational for Instagram, there will need someone to be presenting it, which then, if the person's slightly nervous or hasn't had presenting experience, we try to give them as much guidance and bullet points as possible. Whereas flip that to someone that has a lot of presenting experience, you can kind of just let them run with it. But you try and give someone as much confidence and bullet points and notes as you can.
Oliver, have you had people where you've had to drag them back, where they've wanted to be like Tom Cruise or something, and you sort of had to say, I think you really need to just chill out a bit.
I work
Calm
with
down.
one. I work with one.
Don't worry, I'm going to get you to superimpose like the MGM lion behind us or something.
Yes. We have had some out there ideas. We've had to think, a good idea, but whether we're the company to pull it off for you, I think you might need to hire MGM or someone.
Yeah.
Or does this actually work for your business and for your brand? Still a good idea in its own right, but does it fit?
So you've got to be very diplomatic then.
And let them down softly and say, turning up as Batman to your practice could look funny.
It might not work.
You haven't had someone want to do that, have you?
No, fortunately not. I'm not throwing someone under the bus.
And do you also? I assume you would create different content in different styles based on the platform as well, because we've created video that might sit on YouTube, which might be information based, but then also we might do shorts that would appear on Instagram Reels. We don't really do TikTok, but that's another platform. So I assume you need to think about where this content's ultimately going to be delivered when you're going through the creative process as well.
Yeah, so we started off with just having the same video, which then you can reformat into all the different formats. So LinkedIn, YouTube, probably Facebook. You can have it as the same 16 by 9 format, but then it's Instagram. You want it to either be square or slightly taller.
Right.
And then we have recently started moving into doing specific Instagram content. So that's content that is only going to live on Instagram. It can go on the other platforms,
Right.
but it's probably dedicated for the audience and within the native app, which we feel works with the rest of the content on that platform.
And the thing is, there's some amazing content creators out there. So everyone needs to up their game and make sure that their content is relevant to the platform it's being delivered on. I looked at a guy recently. He's actually a dental student. I think his name's Zach Chug, and he does lots of content on Instagram, mainly around food, making kind of high protein type food. His content's amazing. It's really good. It's well edited. It's engaging. It's snappy. And this is a guy who's just creating his content himself. So if you're a business and you're not competing on a like for like in terms of quality of content at that level, then the danger is you don't get seen.
No, well, I always link it back to an American entrepreneur, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was the early 90s, he started running his dad's business. It's a place called Wine Library in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And he got heavily involved in Google Ads. And then when social media came out, he's very heavily involved in social media. But he's got to a point now where he has over 20 people running just his social media. So that's creating content, publishing content.
That's huge.
Getting him into new places.
I mean, that's a huge amount of content.
And that's for one. That doesn't include any of the businesses. That's just one person's social media.
Wow, that's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that people have to get to that point, but it just shows what some people are doing out there.
I was going to say what it could be. This podcast, as you know, is aimed at the dental profession. I know that FTA Media works across a number of different sectors, the motorsport industry, property, and a number of others. Have you found that useful in creating content for dentists and dental practices, having that external influence of other industries and professions and drawing some of the things that happen in those worlds and for the benefit of dentists?
Yeah, so obviously from myself, fortunately I came from a kind of motorsport-esque background in terms of where I started doing videography, but having also the clients outside of dentistry, because I feel within any industry, you get a bit stagnant and samey. So you start creating the same videos, you go to another practice, or even if it was motorsport, you go to another race, you shoot the same shots, you deliver it. It's broadly the same as the last video, but bringing out to pull different elements and different ideas from different sectors really helps, obviously, our clients and us keep it fresh.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, different sectors move on at different rates as well. So all the ideas change.
Yeah. And what is it about video? And it's probably quite hard to answer, but we used to just basically have words, and then we had pictures, and now we've got video. And as people, that's what we're drawn to. And is it the urge to know more about the people behind the business? It makes people more three-dimensional. What is it that seems to get better results from people using video?
I think it comes down to the personality of trying to understand the people. So back when words were the only medium, that was all you had, which is why people talk about these great authors, because they understand the person behind it. Which then it moves on to radio. And then that's why people wanted to listen to interviews of the people that were on it and started listening to these radio presenters, which is when they got famous because they understood the presenters presenting things. And then obviously TV and video came along. And it's just that one step closer to the people that you have heard about and idolize. But obviously then that goes down to a granular level on social media. To say you're a principal at a practice, your patients want to know who you are. Like, what makes you tick? How do you behave? How do you talk to your staff? Yeah. That kind of thing. How do you behave around the practice? Is that looking behind the curtain?
Yeah. But I know as well there's a stat, isn't there, that in terms of how communication's received, I think it's something like 55% of the message that's delivered is received via body language. It's not necessarily the what you say or the how you say it. It's the body language that goes alongside. And I guess video gets to the core of that. And if you can actually see the person, then you can see if they're passionate about it or if they're enthusiastic or whether they're open in their style. That is a much easier way of getting that across through video than anything else.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you roll back only, 10, 15 years? And imagine the process you'd have to go through to get a video made for your business.
Yeah.
Imagine loading it on dial-up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing. It would never get seen because there's nowhere to put it except
no one would be able to play it.
Whereas now it's so accessible and so easy to do. Why
it's
not?
an interesting one, isn't it? I was, as you were just saying it, I hadn't really thought about it because you sort of don't think about it until sometimes someone raises the question, if that makes sense. And I was thinking, when you're trawling the web, if you come across something that's got a really bad video on it, you instantly are making a judgment about the really bad company that would even allow a really bad video. It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? You don't think, oh, that's a bad video. You sort of think, oh, do they not really care enough to do that? And I think it's quite fascinating.
To produce good content.
Yeah, but then I think there's definitely a difference between the bad content and just updating content.
Yeah.
So we say just start on your stories, post an Instagram reel. That's not necessarily, just because it's low quality, it's not bad content.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then as it grows with your business, you will want to update it and get some more further on brand content.
Well, I suppose it's what you were saying earlier on. When you started off, you did it with the phone.
Yeah.
And now you're using some pretty sophisticated camera stuff.
Yeah. And,
exactly.
And in terms of kind of the business of dentistry, are there some numbers for dental practice owners that kind of make them think actually video is good for business? We should be doing this because it's good for us. Are there some numbers that dentists and dental practice owners should be aware of?
So I think it increases or should I say decreases your bounce rate on your websites up to 4 times. So that means 4 times as many visitors that visit your website will click off within, I think it's 7 or 8 seconds.
Wow.
So it kind of captures
important for your SEO, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if your bounce rate
100%
is high, Google then don't serve you up, do they?
Yep.
As far as I'm aware, that's simplistically,
no, it's true. And then it manages to get a bit of your message across rather than just having a static homepage. You can have it, obviously, match up to your practice and to get exactly what you're about across quicker than them having to scroll down and read your About Us page or that kind of thing. Now, I think the interesting one is this year is meant to be over 80 or 85% of all content uploaded is video online.
Wow.
Jeez.
Well, I suppose it's so easy now, isn't it? Do you remember when that first person put a camera in a phone and everyone went like, who wants a camera in a phone? Yeah. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, I remember when Instagram came out, I was like, who wants to see photos of people's cat and food? That's all it's for. And now it is what it is, and there's full-on industries built off it.
Yeah. That's incredible, isn't it? So going back to that thing about words, pictures and video, if 85% of your feed is going to be video, if you're not doing video, the risk is you just don't get seen.
And someone else is.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? If you're not doing it, someone else is going to be doing it at your expense, potentially.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's going to be the post above you or the post below you. And everyone's fighting for that real estate in the feed.
Yeah.
And where if you actually do get in front of someone, you're going to make the most of it.
And obviously the videos that you create, they're high production value. They kind of have a degree of longevity with them, which you kind of expect because, there's an investment from the client side of things. But everyone's got one of these days. So could people also just be using their smartphone to create content so they can continually be seen on people's feed in different places? Is that should there be a mixture of kind of the professional production quality of a video plus the organic stuff that you're posting regularly?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of it as, say you take someone like Ryan Reynolds. you see him in his Hollywood productions. He's got now his Mint Global phone thing at the moment. You see him in all these high quality bits, which reinforces his high quality brand and what he's about. And you can say like, okay, yeah, movie star. He's got himself put together.
Yeah.
But then it's stepping it down to him posting about his stories behind the scenes, showing what he's about as a person, and kind of just keeping that usual updated content. But then also then going back to the Hollywood productions and the nicer stuff to further reinforce it. I think it's that whole level of layers.
Yeah.
Of having that brand and then kind of who's behind it, and then further down is like, okay, how do you operate? And
so it needs thinking about. It sounds to me like it needs thinking about, as opposed to just haphazardly creating content, whacking it on a platform, and then going and thinking about your next bit of content. You probably need to do a little bit of thinking about how do we want to be seen.
And there's probably a place for some of that, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, one of the other things that amazes me, again, Oliver, with you in the office, is that when you're editing, you know, there's a real skill in the edit, isn't there? You know, and if you edit it wrong, it doesn't look right. I can't really explain it. I just think that it's one of those things that unless you've really got the idea or you've got the experience, it's pretty tricky to edit stuff to make it still look good.
Yeah.
Well, that's where our magic is. It's usually in the edit. So if we film a show, obviously you know roughly what I want it to look like, but you are just running around a show, getting as many shots as you can, with as many things as you can. But having an eye on the edit and how you want that video to turn out means when you get into the editing suite, it's kind of just a matter of putting it all together and already having that vision. And
do you typically, I know you work with a whole host of different clients. Are some clients very clued up and specific about what they want the end result to look like, and others are taking a very heavy lead from you in terms of what the end is going to look like? Is there a mixed bag or so? Because I'm sure some are very sharp on how they want to be represented.
Yeah, it almost comes threefold. So at one end, you've got a client that knows exactly what they want. Like they're almost directing me on the day, being like, look, we want these shots. We've got these example videos. We want this, that. I've got a script. Like they know frame by frame exactly what they need. Then you've got the middle client who kind of knows what they want, but will take a bit of direction from us, and we can lead them to find the thing that they want and what works for their business. And then you've got the other side, which they know they want video, they know they want it to look good, but they kind of give us free reign just to make them look good and kind of come up with the whole process.
Right, yeah. Who would you prefer to work with, given the choice?
Probably the middle client.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, someone that knows kind of what they want. They've got an idea, but need a bit of coaching and a bit of guidance on the way, rather than us having to be completely creative, because obviously that puts a bit of almost trepidation on our side. Because if we get it wrong, we don't meet their expectations, but they just said, have at it.
I suppose in those situations, they don't really even know what their expectation is. All they know is it either worked or it didn't work.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit like putting your hand into a bag and just hoping there isn't a snake in it.
Yeah. Whereas you've got clients on the other side where we're just a glorified camera person.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what they want. And it's just like, okay, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You just put it together.
Yeah.
And I imagine because of what you do, you get to go to some pretty cool places too.
Yeah. So, I was over in Hamburg about 18 months ago with DMG. And I was up in Edinburgh for the BACD conference, the back end of 21. So we're up there handling all the video and social media marketing for that. And then I'm also off to Dubai in February.
Right.
Which would be good fun.
That's
so,
good. Because I come to Brookman's Park.
And not in a plane either.
No. we travel all around the country. I've been over to White and places and been off to Wales. So it's nice to get around.
And also that must be inspiring in terms of creating content. If you go to interesting locations, that
must help.
That helps the old creative juices get going, surely, mustn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely one of the perks of the job. They don't come up. I'm not traveling around the world every week. But when they do come up, yes, it's very nice.
And what sort of advancements can we expect from video in the future? You know, we've obviously seen virtual reality coming, and there's, you know, AI popping up in most industries at the moment. Is that going to filter through to videography? Are we going to see more virtual reality type concepts and AI appearing?
Yes, I think virtual reality and the whole metaverse thing, if you follow it on Facebook, could become a reality in the next decade or two, which will be very interesting to see how marketing feeds into that and how people keep on showing adverts and what that world looks like. There's also some very interesting AI coming out for video editing,
right,
where you just kind of label your clips and the software will pick the best examples and match it to the music and kind of create the video for you, which is still very early days again. So maybe over the next decade or so, that will take the strain of us, maybe in just a first edit where you leave the computer to do its thing and then we analyze it. But so, yeah, I think there'll still be a human element because at the end of the day, it is an art form.
Yeah, it is an art.
So,
yes. That I hadn't thought about.
So there always, I think, has to be a human element in it.
Yeah, the virtual reality, the metaverse thing. I guess there's going to be the need for people to create content in that because it's just another platform. You know, what you were saying before about the difference between the headline video for a website against TikTok, against Instagram, the metaverse or whatever verses are out there, there's going to be a part. There's going to be a part of them, isn't there? But they're all going to need content of some sort, and that content's going to have to suit that platform. So that's going to be a new opportunity as well.
Oh yeah, it's going to be incredibly interesting how advertisers change their thinking and process to try and weave their way through.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is that modern technology. I always find it, you know, sometimes you'll look at something on TV. I can't remember and some of the games, or if you look at you know the PS5, PS4 games, and the people that are on there, they are computer.
Yeah,
but they look so real. And I think that's the sort of scary way that technology is becoming, isn't it? So AI and all that sort of stuff.
I think it's fascinating. It's been great. It's been great. It's been great in talking to you and finding out more kind of behind the scenes stuff. Because isn't it? Yeah, we obviously work with you and we see a lot of the front end stuff, but we don't sit down and talk about kind of the mechanics of what goes into it and how the whole thing gets knitted together. We're going to treat you in the same way as everybody else, and we always ask guests 2 questions at the end. So the first question is, if you could be the fly on the wall in a situation, what would you go for? A situation you could be looking in on?
So I'd have thought about this one, and probably someone who has exploded. Well, he's already famous, but exploded in the past year or so is Jeff Bezos.
Right.
But to be a fly on the wall in his garage, right at the beginning when he had, have you seen the photo with like the spray painted Amazon sign?
Yeah.
So yeah, just to get into his mind when Amazon was a 6-figure business before it was a 10-figure business.
Yeah.
Now, so it's just understanding, did he think about where it could go, or did he have any idea where it was going to end up, or was he just
was he as surprised as everybody else? Yeah, or did he have that inner belief that he knew it was going to be, you know, this thing that was going to dominate retailing?
Yeah, or did he just think it was going to be a really, really good online bookstore?
Yeah.
And you dominate that market.
What, online?
Yeah.
No, don't be silly. That's not going to work.
Who thought that would work?
Yeah.
What do you think Netflix started with posting DVDs through people's letterboxes?
Yeah.
Along with Love Film.
That's right, yeah.
I remember it well.
Yeah. Poor old Blockbuster took a turn in the road, didn't they?
Because they didn't believe in all that streaming stuff.
Exactly.
It's a fad.
And then our next one is if you could meet anyone, So either fictional, real person, someone that's no longer with us, someone who's just still around. Who would you like to meet and sit down and have dinner with?
So myself, probably not coming as a massive surprise, being a big motorsport fan, would be Toto Wolff, who's the team boss for Mercedes.
Yeah.
Who is interesting to me because he came from a finance and business background. I think he was an investment banker.
Yeah.
And did that for 20 odd years, got into F1 and didn't have obviously he was very interested in F1, he liked the racing, but he treated it like a business, not like a racing team or someone that's come up from the ground roots to F1. It's like, okay, how do we treat this as a profitable business, i.e. earning the money and winning races, and build the team up from there.
Jake Humphrey does a great podcast called High Performance, and he interviewed Toto Wolff. And the guy's an absolute machine. He's so clinical. It's a great listen. But no, he would be a really interesting person to sit. He's a really interesting person to sit down with, I bet. Especially as we come to the climax of the Formula One season with 3 races to go and everything to play for.
Oh, it'd be single digit points in it. So,
yeah, exactly. So
very interesting to see what happens there.
Him or Christian Horner will be very happy in 3 races' time.
One of the two.
Yeah, lovely.
I'm sure one of them will be a F1 boss.
And only one of them is married to a Spice Girl, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very true.
That was really good, really interesting. Thank you very much indeed. That was fabulous.
Yeah, no, thank you guys.
Cheers, Oliver.
And like I say, we'll keep looking for your content as it appears all over the place.
That's it. And I get to edit my face for the next couple of hours.
Exactly. You've got a job to do now.
Come back to the office.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Cheers,
Oliver.
Cool. Thanks. Bye.
So there we go. Another episode.
Another one. Video is just fascinating, isn't it? Really, I think it's almost one of those ones that we all know it's there, but we don't sort of know it's there. I think we've become so used to it.
It's so commonplace. I know what you mean.
That unless you really think about it and say, actually, if this is my business, whether it be a dental practice or anything, you really do need it because we've all just got so used to it, but you don't think about it.
I think what gets me is still how many businesses aren't engaged with video. A lot of the content is being produced by a few businesses. It's not everybody's on board with it. And it doesn't need to be this big, complicated, expensive, hard thing. And I think, like Oliver said, it's like sort of start now, get perfect later. You're not going to just suddenly appear on the screen and it all be smooth and easy. No. When you first start, as you said, the first few bits we did, it's kind of stiff and starchy. And don't get me wrong, we're not pros at it, but you do relax more. The more you do, the more you relax, it gets easier. But if you keep putting it off and you don't step into that frame, your competition are.
Yes.
So the danger is
you're going to lose the opportunity.
Well, and also you just slip further behind.
Yeah. I was just thinking, everyone wants about ROI, but I was thinking, can you imagine if you produced a video, I don't know, cost $2,500, whatever Oliver charges for something, and it, by the fact of the way it looks and the way your practice is, it then attracts an Invisalign patient.
Oh, it's paid for itself.
You need one, don't you? And once you've done it, then it's.
And also the nature of things, if it works once, it's likely to keep working.
Yeah, I say once you've set it running, the only thing you've got to do, as Oliver was saying, is just make sure you update it. But it is truly amazing the number of people that don't or haven't engaged with it.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, for various reasons.
I think it is. It's that fear of stepping in front of the camera. And I suppose as time goes on, you then have to think, and I think we went through this a while ago, you then start to say, well, what's the damage to my business if I don't?
Yes.
So is my ego and my the risk of me looking a bit of a wally to start with, because I don't really know what I'm doing, is that worth not doing it?
And I suppose that's a really good point, isn't it? The safety of someone like Oliver, he's not going to let you look a wally.
Everyone's got a vested interest to do something good.
He's going to want a produced, polished, so as you come out well. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I thought it was really good. Yeah, no, very, very useful.
Yeah, thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.